Welcome to the Photo Op Podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things photo and video. I'm your host, Ben Lucas.
And I'm Stuart Marlantis.
And this is Photo Op. And today we are continuing our answers of questions of Reddit.
Yes, Reddit questions that we are answering.
Yeah. I can
Lots of good ones.
My fantastic is talk. I can speak good. Yeah, let's do this. Okay, so yeah, today we are continuing. We were crawling for podcast ideas, and Reddit was on fire, and we decided let's just do a Reddit question. So we're going to dive right in here with our list. So next question that we have up, how do you rate your progress as a hobbyist?
Gracefully. You're a hobbyist.
Realize you're gonna suck. Your first 10,000 photos are all garbage. Just understand that right away. So a lot of people in the comment threads on this one were saying, "Oh, do you like your photos? Well, you know, how much can you know, how much are people willing to pay you? Blah blah blah." Well, if you're a hobbyist and people aren't paying you for it, also, you don't necessarily need to get paid for your hobby for it to have value, because capitalism is the
It's
death
okay
of
for
us.
everything not to be a hustle. You can just enjoy things.
You can just enjoy things. So I actually thought about this one longer than I should have. I thought about this answer for a while.
You do have a podcast, so that's what it's for.
yeah. But most of the other ones are like top of the brain. This is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
This one, I actually came up with, here is how I could objectively scale and give someone to rate your own progress as a hobbyist. So shoot something. So let's say whether it's headshots or portraits of your friends, or whether it's your cat, or whether it's Lego mini figurines or action figures, or just like standing around in your backyard of just like interesting compositions. If you're like a middle schooler who loves photography, this doesn't mean that you have any niche. You're just exploring and finding things that are pleasing to you.
Yeah.
So throw out all of the rules of like what makes a good photo, and only rank it on do I like this photo? Is this pleasing to me? Does this make me happy? So here's how you can tell if you're getting better. In whatever genre of thing it is that you're doing, shoot until you have 10 photos. You say, I like this. This is pleasing to me. How long did it take? How many shutter clicks did it take you to get there? If you start with the first time you do this and you're like Stuart and you're like, I hate all of them, I don't like any of these photos, eventually you'll get to the point where, okay, it took a full day, but I got 10 photos I liked. Like maybe when you're starting out, you can only get like 3 photos that you like, and the rest of them you're like, well, I don't understand why these weren't any good. Keep going. Once you get down to the point where you're getting more that you like than you don't like, and it's taking you a shorter and shorter amount of time, what is happening, what we're actually measuring, is that your skills are improving to the point where you are now consistent. Whatever it is and whatever your aesthetic is, you can quickly and with as a degree of competency achieve the thing that you're going for. So if you can like your photos in less time with less mistakes made, then you're improving objectively.
If you list our back catalog, we have talked about this in the professional space as well. Consistency is the marker of success for both professionals and for hobbyists.
Absolutely.
It's just how you exactly rate that stuff may differ, but it's all about consistency.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you're getting more consistent, then you are getting better. Art is so subjective. It's hard to say what good or better means.
But if you're more consistently enjoying your output,
then you are getting better.
That's
and
what
you can
matters.
pat yourself on the back for that. So
here are 2 questions that are opposite ends of the spectrum, quite literally. How often do you shoot completely stop down? And how often do you shoot completely open? Two-parter within a two-parter.
Yeah, there you go. I shoot completely open most of the time. Dark venue.
Get that shallow depth of field.
Yeah, dark venue. If it's super crowded and I have to blur out all of the people that I don't want in my photo, super shallow depth of field.
Gotta get one of those f.9 zero lenses or whatever.
Here's the thing. I don't think you do though, because like when the time calls for it and I need to shoot wide open, I shoot wide open. But most of the time, if I'm shooting a wedding, like when I'm shooting, let's say like the ceremony first kiss, well, I'm going to be moving dramatically very quickly with my zoom ring and going horizontal vertical. And when I'm shooting like let's say first look is a great example, because first look, one of the two people are walking, taps the other one on the shoulder, and then that person turns around, and there could be a spin, there could be a hug, there could be a jump, there could be a step back, and that step back can go in any direction. And if you are shooting wide open, they're now out of focus.
And you lost it.
So I actually stopped down to like f4 for most of those situations, because it gives you that depth of field in the bokeh and blah, 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 while still making sure that they stepped out of the way and it's sharp enough.
Yep.
So
you got a little bit of wiggle room.
Yeah, you have a little bit of a safety net. How often do you shoot completely stop down? When I do like team sports and I've got like 5 rows people deep, I shoot pretty stop down. I usually go anywhere between like F10 and F16. I never really go above 20 to 22, because after that you have diffraction problems and diminishing returns and blah, 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 blah.
I mean, if you're shooting video, you should basically never be shooting stopped down. You should be
unless you're going for the starburst look.
Yeah.
If you want the sun to have that really hard starburst.
I guess, but like ND filters are a thing.
Yeah. Well, no. That's what I'm saying. Like you can use an ND filter, but an ND filter isn't going to change the shape of your specular.
Yeah, of course.
If you're going for that star look, you either need a star filter or you need to stop down.
Yeah, certainly more open the majority of the time.
How often do you shoot completely open on the widest setting, though? Or do you stop down?
Underwater, completely open all the time, basically.
Underwater is dark as hell.
Because there's so little light. I don't know. I would say not completely open is relatively rare. I would say that I shoot. Yeah, I would say
down a click or two.
Yeah, down a click or two. I was gonna say like
just for sharpness.
F4 is probably pretty similar. Again, basically just to give myself leeway. But
unless I put on a prime lens, if I'm rolling with my 50 or my 85, I'm shooting completely open. Otherwise, why would you own that lens?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, like on one of my zooms, it'll be like F.
I'm 3.2 or 4.
Yeah, 3.2, pretty common. Yeah, but past F11, almost never. Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes, like I don't have filters most of the time, so if I'm trying to do a landscape or anything like that, I might stop down to try and get more of like the waves washing.
If you run out of shutter.
Yeah, that's what it is. I'm still overexposing. I need to crank this down. But
for sure.
then you should be getting ND filters. So
there you go.
Open,
closed.
Unless you're an Ansel Adams F64 club.
I mean,
I'm not.
Goody for you if you're in that club.
I don't shoot landscapes. They're so tedious. Next question, because I don't care anymore. How do you decide what gear to bring with you? Do your best.
What are you trying to accomplish? I hope you know what you're trying to accomplish when you're doing something.
I love this analogy. We don't know your life. Do you need a smart car or a pickup truck?
Yep.
They're two very different tools for two very different things.
How do you decide what gear to bring with you? Whatever is the most expensive.
Yours.
Yeah.
So this particular question, he actually said, I have been bringing everything with me and it's so cumbersome and I want to pare it down, but I don't know what to leave at
I used
home.
to do that. Yeah.
He's like, I don't know what to leave at home because I feel crushed when I'm out there and I realize I did need that thing. Practice, experience, you'll find that there are some things that I put. There are some things I put in my bag specifically because I know I'm 100% using it for the shoot that day, and then there are other things that are in my bag because I use them 99% of the time, and then everything else of like, every once in a while I'll be like, oh, I wish I had that thing. I didn't bring it with me. I'll make do.
Yeah, I totally get the psychology around like I need to have everything just in case.
I own 6 lenses.
I get it.
Why wouldn't I bring all 6 of them with me? Yeah,
I get it, but you'll just end up hating your life because your back will hurt.
Just practice. We don't really have an answer for you. Sorry. It is an
We'll figure it out. We believe in you.
It's an interesting question though, which is why I still included it. I didn't want to include just sorry, do your best, but like no, it's a real thing and we've been there. So.
Here's one pretty interesting. Photographers of Reddit. What are some questions you've been asked in an interview for a photography job that would have been helpful to know for someone going into one? That you felt would be helpful to know for someone going into one. Excuse me.
So, for those of you that have not been listening to this podcast from episode 1 and haven't looked through the 100+ things that we've done, just a little bit of context. So, I am a kind of full-time, independent, self-employed person. Stuart has a job.
I'm not independent at all.
But historically speaking, if I've had to interview for a job, it's because my life has been going really badly and I needed money. Versus
I'm the sellout. Yeah, okay.
I said this last episode. I'll sell out. No one wants to buy me. No, but you have a lot more experience interviewing for jobs. So
I have interviewed people for jobs.
And that's true. And you've had some of those kind of managerial style positions where you've had to see, who else is good in that department.
Yeah.
So let's throw this over to you. What interview questions, because you do a lot more interviews.
And specifically, what would be helpful to know for someone going into one?
So while you think, I'll fill the silence here a little bit. So at least for me, these interviews, I have gone through interviews, but my interviews are different because it's like we are interviewing several candidates for this specific job or project. It's not like they're hiring me full time, but it's like, hey, we need someone to come in and do all of our product photography, and we don't know who we're going to pay thousands of dollars to yet.
Yep.
So there's an interview process to be like, are you competent, right? So thing number 1 is make sure that your competency comes across in the portfolio. Only show your best work. Never show mediocre work to pad it out. Only show the absolute best stuff. If you're starting out and it's thin, that's okay. But you don't get to that interview until they like what they've seen.
Yeah.
So once you're already at that point, no one gives an F how you got into photography or what your credentials are or where you graduated from. UW on the sweatshirt right here. No one cares. No one cares at all. I've literally never once been asked, did you get a degree in photography? That has never happened. No one cares.
I would say, now granted, I'm coming from more the corporate world, at least nowadays, for this question, and I feel like a lot of interview questions are trying to get at how good of a fit you are for the job or for the position, and they're less about your actual answers. Like it's more of a cultural or like personal fit, which may sound a little bit disappointing because shouldn't it be a meritocracy? But ultimately things aren't a meritocracy.
They're not.
I mean, the meritocracy is what got you in the door. Like your work being good,
yes,
that they paid attention to, got you in the door.
Into the door.
Yeah. But past that point, you need to
prove that you're a pleasant person that they would want to work with. That's pretty much all you have to do at that point.
So those questions, I don't really have specific questions to give you because it depends on the job, it depends on the interviewer, it depends on so many things.
I mean, I have one.
Yeah.
I once got asked, what's the longest amount of time you've ever spent in one go playing a video game?
Okay. I mean, that's interesting.
And we want to know that you can sit at your desk and stare at a computer screen for 10 hours a day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think probably the most common equivalent of that I've heard and I have used is hobbies, or like what you do in your off time. So people want to know, what are you bringing to the table? What are your interests like outside of this job, and do they inform the job? So it's useful for me because I have a lot of hobbies that are technical and I work in an increasingly technical field. And so people hearing that my hobbies are technical, they're like, oh, he's invested in this beyond just the 9 to 5.
This is the lifestyle. This is not just a thing he's doing.
Exactly. It's not just for money. It's a personal interest thing too. And that's what people, although ultimately the job is just for money, often at the end of the day. For money,
but that also tells them that you are going to stick around more so than someone else that is like, the minute I get something better, I'm out.
Yep. And even if that's true, and that could be true, and that's fine. Be healthy.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Be healthy with the transactional nature between you and your employer. However, you need to convince them on the way in that that's not the case.
This is the job for you. Absolutely.
So it's really that. It's really about pitching yourself. It's really about convincing them that you're a good fit. You basically want to appear like you already work there in your conversation.
I like that.
You need your answers, and you need to do research on who's interviewing you. Maybe not exactly the person, you might not know, but like what you're interviewing for, the company you work for, the organization you're working for, whatever. Figure out who they are, what they like, and what their kind of culture is about, and try to guide your answers in that direction. You want the interviewer to be like, it feels like I already work with this person.
Yeah.
And then you're in.
I have two questions that you should actually ask them rather than questions ask you, because a lot of times if they say, okay, are there any questions you'd like to ask us? And you're like, nah, I'm good. How much does it pay? Whatever.
Yeah.
Then they're like, oh, this person is shotgunning resumes out everywhere. They don't actually know what we do or care. So here are the two things that you need to ask. Question number one is you need to ask, what are the benchmarks for success?
Yep.
You need to know what is the thing that is going to show you I'm an incredibly valuable employee. I have done the work, and then I can get promotion, raise, better schedule, whatever perk it is that those jobs have to offer, of like, what is it that I can do to show you as a good employee? And also their answer might be very telling of just like, okay, this is something I can do, or realize I am out of my depth. This is not a job that I'm trained for. Or it might be that they have absolutely no clear standards and you realize there's no upward mobility whatsoever.
So my addition to this question, so I ask this question when I interview, and I frame it around lengths of time. So I ask, what does success look like in the first month, in the first 6 months, in the first year, in 5 years are usually, and you may not ask all of those, it depends on the job, but those are kind of the spans of time that I give. And one, it gives you all the benefits that you just said about figuring out, is this something you want to pursue? Is this reasonable? Is this within your wheelhouse?
There's some companies that want you to get like invested in some companies.
Also,
they're like, you're a cog, just hit your quota.
But also, if again, you're trying to appear like you're already working there. And so if you are in the interview basically making plans in the interviewer's head of like, oh, they've already figured out what a month, or they already know what a month is, or what 6 months is, or what a year of success in this job looks like. That just subconsciously to them is like, they're already working here. They're already planning. They already have a roadmap. And you want them to believe that, so that they are just like, why would we hire anybody else? You already know the deal. You already have your work planned out.
Absolutely.
So that's why I ask it in chunks of time like that, instead of just the question openly.
To piggyback off that, the second question is something that is technical and specific to the thing that you are applying for. Example, one of the jobs is they were building out a Shopify page, and the way Shopify works is with the customizer is you basically have these transparent PNGs that onion skin on top of each other. So you have a base layer and you have all of these additional accessories. And so they were trying to figure out, hey, is there a photographer and a retoucher who knows how to do this and build it out for us? And so one of the things that I snuck into my interview for that job was, okay, show me an example of this. Oh, one thing that I noticed is we'll have to make notes about the Z indexing, because this object, I can't say who it is, but this object interacts with this other accessory, and when the two accessories are next to each other, it leaves a shadow. So if you do it the other way, then it looks like it's kind of like objects colliding does not exist type thing. But the one way it looks good. So you'll have to make sure that when we're doing this, we take notes on the Z indexing for the dev team. And they're like, wow, this guy, he not only does he know and completely understand how our process works and what we're looking for, but he's already gone one step ahead of something that we haven't thought of yet. And they're like, well, yeah, you're the guy. Like, I got that job. That job happened. They were very happy with it. So ask something technical related to the thing that you're, like you said, like you're working there, or assume you get the job and be like, okay, next step, how do we solve this next problem? And they'll be like, oh, okay.
Assuming you're getting the job goes a long way too. I mean, that's not a question or an answer framework, but try to assume you're getting the job, and that will, even if you have to lie to yourself, that will actually give you some degree of outward confidence. Of like, yeah, like I'm already here. I'm here. This is my interview. This is my first day. We're figuring out what's happening.
I will say there is a fine line between cockiness and arrogance.
No, you don't be cocky,
confidence.
but like,
But yeah, I feel like a lot of people self-sabotage by not having the confidence in themselves that they can get the job.
And you want to be confident, because they want to give the job to somebody who is confident that they can do the job. I mean, I know that sounds obvious, but seriously, like people self-sabotage, people ask questions or appear like they don't know what they're talking about or they're unsure. Even if you're not sure, you can learn on the job. So like,
absolutely,
just appear confident. Confident, not cocky.
All right, next question. Is photography as a hobby kind of pointless if you can't travel or live somewhere interesting?
I'm sure you live somewhere interesting. Don't sell your surroundings short.
So there are two big pieces of advice. Piece of advice number one is that you can find anything interesting no matter where you are. Let's say that you are specifically talking about nature, because if you shoot literally anything else, anything can be done anywhere, right?
Yep,
but
yep.
if you have to do nature, you obviously can't live in downtown Seattle and get like a nice waterfall. Like those two things are incongruent with each other. So part of it is you can find the beauty where you are. People always think that the exotic is beautiful. So if you live somewhere where everyone else is like, wow, that's gorgeous and amazing, and you're like, I see this every day, this is boring. Just because it's boring to you doesn't mean it's not interesting to everyone else.
Yep.
So you need to try to retrain yourself to, I am not looking at a lake. What I'm looking at is a series of shapes. I see circles and rectangles, and they're interacting with each other, and there's colors and there's motion. And how do you kind of reframe these shapes into something that is pleasing to the eye and try and see it in a new way with fresh eyes? So there's that. The other thing is, if you want more interesting pictures, sometimes you have to get more interesting subjects.
Yeah, that's like a classic trope of like wildlife and landscape photographers is they get up at like 3:00 in the morning and drive for 6 hours for this one specific time, or they like camp on a tent on the side of the mountain because they're like, oh, at 4:37 and 30 seconds, this is going to be exactly what I want. Like, yeah, you just have to
put in the work to make that happen. Yeah.
But as a hobbyist, like, does any hobby have a point beyond your personal enjoyment? No. I mean, if you're not enjoying it, then I guess it's not worth it to you. But what do you like to shoot? What do you like to see when you're looking at the back of your camera?
Photography is not just sunsets and mountains and
no,
landscapes.
No. What do you like to shoot? And shoot that. Is that available in your area? Probably
always,
somewhere. Yeah. I mean, some of the coolest stuff I've seen is people like doing something on a table or in a dark room, or they're doing like macros or high speed or something that's like incredibly, like you could do that in any room, like any warehouse, you could do it in an industrial park where literally everything's ugly.
You can do it in your basement. You can do it in your living room. So, wherever you are, you can do that.
Yeah.
So, last question for today. Ooh, this is a fun one. Accidentally shot all my photos today in small JPEG. What's your mess up story? I've done that once.
Yeah.
I
have a couple of these.
I was teaching a workshop, and this was over a decade ago. And the workshop that I was teaching way back then, it literally took about 2 minutes to transfer a single RAW file off my camera to my computer while tethered. And so I shot small JPEG for the workshop so that I could, actually do work and do the workshop. And then I had an engagement session the next day and forgot to change it back.
Oh no.
There were I did some tricky color correction. I did some upscaling. I did thankfully catch it about 20 minutes into that photo shoot, so I kind of laughed it off and told the couple, I'm like, can we just, like, for safety's sake, redo some of those poses we just did? And we just kind of laughed it off, redid it, and I threw out most of the JPEGs. I used a couple of them because they weren't recreatable. They were just, the perfect moment with the perfect timing. They were just small and improperly white balanced. Whoops.
Throw it into Topaz, Photo AI,
feel your
Photo
pain,
AI,
bro.
and pray.
Yeah.
Let's see. I have a few of these. A very common, like I have a common one and then a couple uncommon ones. So my common one is leaving something on auto white balance and then regretting it later. Because auto white balance, at least in video,
jumps all over the place.
Sucks. Yeah. It jumps all over the place. You can't edit around it.
In video, sometimes it happens mid-video.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's what I'm talking about. Is I leave it on auto, and you move the camera, you pan it, or you're doing something. The camera moves, The lighting changes.
Someone adjusts and there's slightly
Yeah.
more of their white shirt tucking out from their black jacket, and the camera adjusts and their skin mid-frame goes whoop whoop.
This sucks on time lapses as well. You set up a time lapse, you accidentally leave it on auto white balance, and you're like, oh great. Now I need to try to split these into different.
Yeah.
Awful. So that's a common one. Forgetting SD cards. Another one that used to be very common for me until I started putting SD cards in every place that I could possibly think of. And now it no longer happens to me because I don't trust myself. And so I've got like one in my bag, one in my other bag. I have one in my glove compartment. I've got one like hidden in like under a seat in my car. If the glove compartment one disappears, I've got them all over the place. So I actually, it's so bad. It's like a squirrel forgetting where they buried a nut and then realizing later, like I'll find him and I'll be like,
cool.
oh
SD
yeah,
card.
I put one here. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
So in college, I've done
I
that
got
once.
bit by that so many times. I'm like SD card shy now.
I have only forgotten my card once. In college, I was doing my brother had a newborn baby, and I was going to shoot newborn photos. And I show up, and my camera won't click because there's no card in it. So I'm like, hey Roger, I need to borrow a memory card. So thankfully, like that was an option,
Yeah,
and it was awkward, it was embarrassing, but like it wasn't a paying client.
Not a big deal.
It was okay. But I do have a hot tip: turn off the mode of your camera that allows you to take a photo without a card in it. And then
Yes.
before you put that camera in your bag and in your car and leave for whatever your photo shoot is, click a photo. It can be of your hand, it can be of your shoes, it can be of your dog, whatever.
Inside
Take
your
a
lens
photo. Yeah. Well, no, not the inside of your lens cap. Take an
'cause it's
actual
black.
photo. Yes, exactly. Take an actual photo of something. So when you see that white wall or whatever show up on the back of your screen, you know you have a memory card and a battery.
Yeah.
Those
See,
two. That's your last second check.
That's the smart, responsible way to do it. Or you could hide SD cards everywhere.
just stash them everywhere
Yeah.
like a squirrel.
Yeah. That's my
I shoot on
strategy.
CF cards. Those things are expensive.
Whatever.
bro.
Whatever equivalent card
No,
you
no, no,
like.
No. SD cards you can pick up for like 15,
Yeah,
20
yeah.
bucks. My cards are like $150 a piece. I'm not
No
stashing
thanks.
them everywhere.
No thanks.
So that's the difference.
My worst story with this is, and I've done this at least once, maybe twice. But I do a lot of scuba diving. It takes a tremendous amount of time and energy and effort to scuba dive to get in the water. You're in the water for an hour and a half, maybe maximum, and you're spending hours and hours and hours of just like putting the gear together, testing everything, putting it in the car, driving to the place, putting it on, getting ready to go in the water takes just like an hour by itself, if not more. And I've done that, had camera gear ready, had lights, had everything set up, housings, get in the water. Like you descend, you're down like 30 feet underwater,
No
and you're
battery?
like, no SD card. Like, God.
Oh.
And then you just clip it off and you're like, whatever. And then your dive buddy's like, what's going on with the camera? And you're just like, later, just don't point it out. So that's the worst.
Oh.
So
that's
yeah,
a shame.
I am a SD card squirrel. SD squirrel. For sure.
That's gonna be the title of this episode. Are you an SD card squirrel?
I am now.
All right. This has been fun. We have enjoyed going through all of your questions of Reddit. We do have a couple of listener questions that we are going to kick off the next episode with next time.
Yes.
But until then, send in your listener questions because we like hearing from real people, not just internet bots.
Are Redditors real people?
No.
I don't know.
No.
Everybody's a bot on Reddit other than you. That's the answer.
Yeah. That's it. All right. Well, thank you so much, and we will see you next time. If you have questions or ideas for future episodes, you can email us at hello@photo-op.show.
Watch us on Ben's YouTube channel at NomCreative.
As in Om Nom Nom.
Share this with a friend, and you can listen to Photo Op anywhere podcasts are sold.
Or download it. Because it's free.